want to talk today about something close to my heart. I suspect most of us feel it, though few could name it. I believe it's fundamental to who we are, and its absence creates a dull ache in the heart, a quiet longing for a world that feels alive. Long ago, we humans pulled away from nature and positioned ourselves above the world. And from this lofty vantage point, we map, measure, manage, and commodify. We scroll, consume, achieve goals, and tick off bucket lists. Yet part of us remains thirsty for something elusive. No matter how many posts, shiny plastic novelties, or holiday destinations vie for our attention, the colors of life can seem dull, as if the world itself has gone still. Once we lived in conversation with everything. The forest spoke through rustling leaves and dappled light, with elementals dancing on the edges of our awareness. Fires told stories of our ancestors, and mythic tales were written in the stars. Rituals, art, and small gestures of reverence fed our souls. We didn't call it spirituality. It was just how we naturally connected to the world around us. Somewhere along the way, we traded that living dialogue for a world that we could catalog and control. We named, dissected, analyzed, and exploited, but stopped being a part of, stopped belonging. And the soul, stripped of connection to the world that we walk through, began to starve. There's a beautiful book called The Re-Enchantment of Everyday Life by Thomas More. In it, he reminds us that the soul doesn't live on explanations. It lives on beauty, imagination, joy, and intimacy with the world around us. To nourish the soul is to surround it with connection, mystery, meaning, and small acts of wonder. It doesn't have to be high drama. Just dew on a blade of grass, listening to singing birds, or noticing how sunlight shines dreamily through a piece of colored glass. These tiny treasures are all around us all the time, yet they're so easily missed. If we take the time to stop and focus, we discover moments that can feel so rich and precious. Because they aren't small things. They are glimpses of the world whispering, "I am alive, and so are you. And we are sublime." It's when I can slow down enough that I tune in to that current of love that pulses quietly, that's always hiding in plain sight. Poets understood this. William Blake wrote, "To see a world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wild flower," reminding us that perception itself can be sacred if only the inner eye is open. William Wordsworth put it like this: "There was a time when meadow, grove, and stream, the earth and every common sight, to me did seem, apparelled in celestial light, the glory and the freshness of a dream." Both he and Blake were early prophets of re-enchantment, voices who knew that nature itself is alive, that imagination is not escape, but communion. This is the essence of animism, not a primitive belief, but an ancient knowing. A knowing that consciousness and matter are intertwined in a single living field. As children, many of us knew this instinctively. I think that's why the book Goodnight Moon feels so timeless. Page by page, a child whispers goodnight to everything in the room. The chair, the mittens, the stars, the comb and brush. Nothing is dismissed as inert or meaningless. Everything is addressed, included, and loved. That book instinctively made sense to me. To know presence shimmering inside the ordinary, to speak to life and feel it wink in return. Modern philosophy is circling back to what poets and ancients have always known. Panpsychism proposes that consciousness is not an accident of matter, but the essence of matter itself. Every atom, every leaf, every stone participates in awareness in its own way. The universe is not a stage set for human drama. It's a symphony of unique points of awareness, each humming its own note of being, an intricate web of perceiving and being perceived. What the Romantics intuited through vision and indigenous traditions have always known through intimacy with the land, philosophy now begins to understand through reason that consciousness and cosmos are one dance. A universe made only of matter leaves us empty and lonely, whereas a universe woven of consciousness invites us home. When we see the world as alive, we stop asking how to get more out of it and begin wondering how to be in meaningful relationship with it. The tree outside the window is no longer just a part of the scenery. It's a companion sharing breath. And through this lens, the body is not just a biological machine. It's a communion between earth and spirit. Awareness and focus become our way of replying, finding ways to bring our own magic to the moment, to lift it from the ordinary to the extraordinary. It doesn't have to be grand gestures, a meal prepared with care, a morning walk with presence, a simple flower arrangement, or a whispered thank you before drifting off to sleep. Each one a thread in the dialogue of existence. Our age of constant stimulation feeds the senses, but leaves the heart empty. We're surrounded by noise, but starving for meaning. Soul nourishment doesn't come from consuming more content, but from dropping into our experiences, listening, observing, finding the quiet gift within the moment. I think the soul's deepest craving is simply to belong to a living cosmos. And I think that belonging is what we glimpse in those moments, those quiet, unguarded moments when we feel at one with all things. So may this be a small remembering. The world has not lost its magic. We just stopped paying attention. We shifted our focus from wonder to efficiency, from mystery to measurement, from communion to consumption, and from participation to control. And yet meaning still glimmers from the cracks, in the shimmer of sunlight dancing on the surface of water, in the breath between words, in the way dusk dances in a beam of light. When we tend beauty, when we speak gratitude, when we bring love to our surrounds, we feed the soul. And the soul in turn feeds the world, which of course feeds us. A self-nourishing cycle of belonging, the way it was meant to be. Thanks for everyone who made it to here. If anyone is new, my name is Christina Lavers, and this is Quantum Heart Rising. This is a space where I just share my perspective. So it's been just over 2 months since I started this channel. It's such an interesting project. There's something in me that doing this brings me alive. It just feels really right. It's still taking up a lot more time than I would like it to, but I'm getting better at it all the time, and I'm noticing things are happening a bit more quickly, as long as I don't get those little annoying glitches that take me off on some total side quest nightmare. So we'll see how it progresses, but I am feeling I've got so much to share, so much that I'm excited to put out there. And I guess one of the things I notice in the work that I do is that so many people, when they're looking for that sense of purpose and finding what they're really meant to step into, often when we look back at their history, all these kind of disconnected things that they may have done or learned, skills they'd gathered along the way, suddenly makes sense as it all weaves together. And this is a bit like that for me. It just feels like a good way. So I've written 2 books, love writing, but this is different. And I feel like whereas a book is a huge production that kind of takes like a year to do something, at least for me, at least a year. Whereas with this, it feels like I can just pop out all these different ideas and it brings in, like, I know that the editing is a little bit, I'm learning, but I'm also really creative. So I can't help getting a little bit like weird and wild sometimes with it. I absolutely appreciate feedback. Try to be a little bit gentle if possible because I am really new at this. The other day, I actually got a negative comment, something a bit mean on one of my videos. And it was really interesting because I read it and it was, something that I thought I would be totally fine with because honestly, I totally know I'm not for everybody and that's okay. My instinct was I just deleted it, which I'm not sure if that was the right thing to do because I'm not somebody for censoring, but then again, this is my channel and it's my space to, curate and to decide what kind of energies I want here. So maybe that was the right move, or I could have used it as an opportunity to really respond to the comment in a way that, was growth for everybody. But, whether that was a missed opportunity or not, I'm not sure. It is what it is. But it was really interesting to see in me because it was literally, I could feel a part of me sort of saying like, okay, we're done. We're done. We don't need to do this anymore. It was quite interesting, how quickly, like when we have these parts of us that are so terrified. Like I'd say that was coming from a part of myself that I call the unchosen one, who sort of is, pick me, wants to be liked so desperately. And so one little comment, from somebody was just collapse. So I had to do some work and really, support that part and, help her to feel safe moving forward. I've always got to remind that part that I choose her. And she's chosen from within. So with that, I guess I will finish here. Yeah. Oh, I know. I really should say, like, if you have made it to this point, please, like, subscribe, comment, all these things are really helpful. So thank you if you do. And I look forward to continue sharing with you. Thank you from my heart to yours. Let's come together and build a world on the foundation of